Now, from Nebraska's trusted news source, this is Channel 8 News at 5.
Coming up tonight, a massive house fire in Hickman had multiple fire crews battling it out in frigid temperatures.
Also tonight, several bills concerning pro-life or pro-choice are being debated at the Capitol. We're going to look at the details of each one, but first,
more than 100 missiles blasted into Ukraine last night. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Ukraine is now under full attack by Russia by air and by land. A nation-to-nation assault not seen in Europe since World War II.
President Biden announcing severe sanctions for what he calls an unprovoked and unjustified attack. ABC's Zareen Shaw has the very latest developments.
The Russian military launched more than 100 ballistic and cruise missiles into Ukraine last night. President Biden says with that, President Putin declared his war.
Putin's aggression against Ukraine will end up costing Russia dearly, economically and strategically. We will make sure of that.
A senior defense official telling ABC News the president is sending an additional 7,000 troops heading to Germany to reassure NATO allies. President Biden earlier today meeting with his counterparts of the G7, agreeing to move forward on what he calls devastating packages of sanctions and other economic measures to hold Russia to account. This as a minority of the 150,000 Russian troops continue to advance into Ukraine from the east, from Belarus in the north, and from the south in Crimea. Overnight, Russian President Putin declaring the beginning of what he calls a special military operation in Ukraine. Ukrainian officials now reporting Russian troops have reportedly taken full control of the exclusion zone around Chernobyl nuclear power station, including the plant itself. Troops also seizing an airport less than 20 miles away from Ukraine's capital of Kyiv. President Zelensky addressing his people today, saying what we're hearing was the sound of a new Iron Curtain lowering and closing Russia away from the civilized world. He also added that while Ukraine has suffered losses, they are fighting back and have captured some Russian soldiers. Many Ukrainians in several cities are preparing for the uncertainty ahead, lining up to withdraw money from banks and stocking up on gas and other supplies. Western Ukraine and Poland are also bracing for an influx of refugees fleeing the fighting and bombing. President Biden says he has no intention of speaking with President Putin at this moment. He also says he thinks Putin wants to go beyond Ukraine. He says if he goes into NATO countries, the U.S. will get involved, but he says he does not believe that this conflict will last a very long time. Reporting from Washington, Zoreen Shah, ABC News.
And the Ukraine-Russia conflict may be thousands of miles away,
but we will be seeing the effects right here at home, from the gas pump to the stock market. This as the stock market takes a hit. The Dow down more than 700 points this morning after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Oil prices also skyrocketing to more than $100 per barrel for the first time since 2014, as the U.S. already deals with historic inflation.
The oil prices will be the most immediate effect because they will filter through to gasoline prices, fuel prices, and that will lead to a pinch essentially on consumers' pockets in an environment where we've already seen very high inflation affect consumers' ability and willingness to spend.
And we're already seeing some effects at the pump that are only expected to get worse. The average gas price across the country right now is $3.54 a gallon, but in California, an all-time record high of $4.77. And back to local news, a big house fire near Hickman today kept dozens of firefighters busy for hours.
In addition to the blaze, they also battled very cold temperatures. The call came in around 11 a.m. A house fire near South 120th and Stagecoach Road on fire. Up to 7 different volunteer fire departments rushing to the scene. But the fire spread so quickly, they had to make some quick decisions, like fighting the blaze without going inside the home.
Quickly, it became obvious that we weren't going to be able to remain inside. It was too involved already. So we transitioned back to a defensive mode.
Officials say no one was home at the time of the fire, so good news there. One of the other challenges fighting the fire, the bitterly cold temps. It was around 12 degrees when it broke out. Hickman Chief Robertson says that presents a couple of challenges.
We took steps to mitigate that, but it did add some complication to our water supply. We just have to handle it differently. We have to continue to flow water to keep our equipment from freezing up.
Because of the dangerous temperatures, the Salvation Army out of Lincoln showed up, providing warm food and hot beverages. So far, no word on the official amount of damage, but it is extensive. Also, investigators are now looking into what caused it. And crews have been staying on the scene. They're watching for flare-ups and things like that. Of course, we'll keep you updated when we learn more. Also, an update on the house fire in Auburn we told you about this week.
A Ring doorbell caught some of the fire on video, and officials now know what caused it.
Help!
I spoke with Auburn Assistant Fire Chief Darwin McCollum this afternoon. He and the fire marshal say the fire was caused by a wood pellet stove. The homeowner and her family were on a trip when this all happened, but the person you saw in the video there, that was her father. He was home but made it out safely. Unfortunately, though, one of their 3 dogs died in the fire. The home is a total loss.
We have new details tonight on that deadly crash that happened near Highway 77 and Old Mill Road last night. The Lancaster County Sheriff's Office says 52-year-old Nikki Beanblossom died.
Deputies say she was driving the wrong way on Highway 77 and collided with another car head-on, causing it to burst into flames. The other driver was pulled from the flames and suffered minor injuries. Deputies say Beanblossom was not wearing a seatbelt and is believed to have been intoxicated. Today is a big day for anyone who has an opinion on abortions, no matter what side of the fence you're on.
As committees in the legislature heard testimony on 3 anti-abortion bills and 1 bill which would expand abortion access across the state. Channel 8's Ariana Martinez spent the day at the Capitol and tells us what Nebraskans are saying. Ariana?
Yes, senators in the Judiciary Committee said there was a good chance that committees could go past 9 o'clock tonight, even after they limited the time to just 2 hours for supporters and 2 hours for opponents. Senator Joni Albright shared there have been over 200,000 abortions in Nebraska since Roe v. Wade.
I'm here because my story almost never came to fruition, like the stories of thousands of Americans and Nebraskans whose stories were ended by an abortionist.
All 3 bills would ban abortions within weeks of pregnancy, and LB 933 would make it illegal at any point unless there is a medical emergency to save the mother.
My aunt, who courageously served our nation in 2 tours in Iraq, suffers from PTSD. But it wasn't the dangers of Iraq, and it wasn't the time the shower trailer that she had just left was shelled by enemy forces. It was the abortion she was pressured into early in her military career.
This is a bridge too far. This is out of step with our Nebraska values. This hurts women's health. This hurts family health. This is an assault on our rights. So the critical thing to remember is Nebraskans do have different perspectives on abortion, but once a woman has decided to end a pregnancy, it's important that we remove political interference and we stop shaming and judging women. And these bans continue to just push care farther and farther out of reach.
Senator Megan Hunt introduced a bill which would expand access to abortions in Nebraska.
And we can't just keep spinning our wheels and always being in defense. You know, we can't always just be here trying to stop a ban from happening, because as long as there are barriers to care with cost and with access in Nebraska, we need to do more to expand abortion services. So I introduced this bill to make that possible.
Many mentioned how access to health care in general has impacted the Black community.
We know that bans and limitations and restrictions do disproportionately impact the Black people in particular.
But some felt that expanding abortions would just hurt the Black community more.
Planned Parenthood, which has absurdly rebranded itself as an anti-racist organization, is the leading killer of Black lives. They kill 360 unarmed Black lives every single day.
People of all ages came to voice their opinions.
I mean, it means everything. Like the weight of our future is kind of like held in today. And
seeing just what our world is like and thinking, how can I make a change and make this different?
Senator Joni Albright mentioned today that 12 other states have brought similar anti-abortion laws to their legislatures. Nothing will be decided today, and each bill must first pass the committee before the bill can hit the legislature's debate floor.
All right, I know you'll keep us updated. Thank you so much, Ariana.
Time now for our first forecast, and a big happy birthday to John Dissauer today. John, you brought some snow for your birthday.
That's right. Snow falling. Don't expect much in the way of snow accumulating on the ground. We may see just a little bit out there. In fact, it's snowing outside right now. It's going to take you on a tour of some of our cameras around the area and show you where the snow is falling. At least it has been here just recently. You can see the view right now from the station looking to the northwest. If you look closely, you can see some of those snowflakes falling right there, also accumulating on some of the parking lots. Take you to a live look from Allo Communications, kind of a cool shot where the sun is trying to shine through the clouds, but we've also got snow showers falling. You can see a little bit accumulating there on L Street and at South 21st, there again at Allo Communications. And then I'll take you to a live look right now from Southeast Community College on the east side of town at 84th Street and O Street. And you can see there is definitely some visibility being reduced slightly as you try to look out over the top of the trees. That's because, again, some of the snow that is falling out there. But again, nothing terribly heavy. You can see on a radar how it's now beginning to move from west to east. So the west side of Lincoln, likely not seeing a whole lot of in the snow flurry action. But as you go to the east side of town, that's a different story where we do have just a bit more in the way of some snow. And there are some snow showers also further to the south and also back out towards Grand Island. These are all moving off to the east. Otherwise, temperature-wise, we're sitting at 16 degrees. We've got wind chill values down into the single digits, and for the rest of the evening, we'll see our temperatures continuing to drop. Single digits by 10 o'clock down to 9 degrees. A cold night coming our way, but there's relief in sight. I'll tell you how warm we get in my Storm Alert Team forecast.
We'll talk to you soon. Thank you, John. Today, a Nebraska farmer spoke out about frustrations with a lack of options when it comes to repairing equipment.
In most cases, they have to go to dealerships or manufacturers, or a certified tech has to come to you.
I talked to my local independent mechanic and asked him what tractor should I buy, and he recommended a 1995 model. He said, you can work on that yourself. It'll keep you running. Dealing with older equipment, you don't know what you're buying, but at least we can fix it.
Many farmers say manufacturers and dealers controlling the ability and cost of repairs leaves them seeing nearly 90% increase in equipment repair costs. That's why senators are looking over a bill called Right to Repair. It would allow more mechanics to be able to do the job.
Ultimately, this bill is not about trying to take away business from the dealerships. This is about making sure that they can thrive while also making sure that there's enough repair options for farmers so that they can get the help that they need when their equipment breaks down.
14 states across the country are considering right to repair reforms, and Nebraska could be the first one. The bill did make it out of committee and is waiting to be debated on the full legislative floor. Well, tonight, the city of Lincoln is hosting a virtual open house for a brand new inclusive playground.
The goal of the park is to allow children of all abilities to play together. These are pictures of what the park may look like. According to a survey taken by the Parks and Recreation Department, almost half of Lincoln families have at least one member with disabilities. And of those families, at least 20% have children who felt discouraged at playgrounds that had limited access for mobility devices.
I think it will have great impact on all of the children in the Lincoln area that experience disabilities, that they can now fully participate and become a part of their community and a part of their network of friends.
Parks and Rec is preparing inclusive playgrounds around the city. The goal is for Lincoln residents to have one within 5 miles of their home. The virtual open house again starts at 6:30 tonight, so community members can leave feedback on the concept and plans via Zoom. And we have a link to that open house on our website, klkntv.com. Still to come on the news tonight, day 2 of the trial for a former police officer involved in the shooting of Breonna Taylor.
We'll have that and your full forecast right after the break. Stay with us. Now to the trial of the only police officer facing charges in connection with the shooting death of Breonna Taylor.
The former Louisville officer is accused of firing shots that endangered a neighbor of Taylor's. ABC's Morgan Norwood has the latest from today's testimony.
The trial for former Louisville Metro Police Officer Brett Hankison entering day 2. He's one of 3 LMPD officers who executed a no-knock warrant in March 2020 that resulted in the death of Breonna Taylor.
This is not a case to decide who is responsible for the death of Breonna Taylor.
Hankison is accused of endangering Taylor's neighbors in apartment number 3, though Taylor died in a hail of gunfire in apartment number 4. Prosecutors say the former officer showed extreme indifference to human life when he fired his weapon.
I mean, I heard the shots, pretty much knew that it was gunfire coming through the wall.
The prosecution today beginning with the crime scene, showing photos of casings and bullets from the apartment complex, questioning Sergeant Jason Vance about the integrity of the scene and what detectives found.
PIU investigators were able to obtain consent from apartment 8, the occupant in apartment 8, and we went in and we photographed the defect, if you will, related to those 2 projectiles.
And while Vance said those casings likely came from another officer's gun, 10 casings found at the scene came from Hankison's weapon, adding that none of them hit Breonna Taylor. Hankison's defense lawyers told jurors the former officer was just responding to gunfire from Taylor's apartment, but the neighbor at the center of this case saying that gunfire came just inches away from hitting him.
Like 1 or 2 more inches and I would have been shot. Which kind of upsets me because I think about it all the time and I'm like, my son would have never even got to meet me. I would have never even got to meet my son.
And Hankison is free on bond. He faces up to 5 years in prison for each of the 3 charges if he's convicted. Morgan Norwood, ABC News, Los Angeles.
Now, your Storm Alert Team forecast with Chief Meteorologist John Dessauer.
We thought we'd see a little snow today, and that has been the case. Keyword on little, and the amounts have been very small, as we were expecting, as there's not a lot of precipitation to work with. It's extremely cold, so what does fall is going to be fluffed up very high, so it's blowing snow, because it's just going to be a fluffy snow, and that's been the case. At times we've seen snowflakes falling within the last 5-10 minutes in Beatrice. We saw some here on the south side of town at Schoen's Roofing. Took you up to Lincoln at Honda of Lincoln, and you can see, if you look closely, you can see some snow flurries still falling. And one of the neat things is with our camera network and the vast number of cameras across the city, we can take it from the southwest side of town into the middle part of town, which is, here's a live look from Allo Communications. And if you look closely, you can see some snowflakes still flying there in the sky. Especially in front of the building here. But then we can also take you over to the east side of town and show you also on a radar, as we were showing you at Southeast Community College a few minutes ago, how they were having snow falling out that direction. And that's still the case on the east side of town, but more so out towards Eagle and Waverly. We've got a little burst of snow going through the area. I'm not expecting a whole lot in the way of accumulation. There will be enough to collect on the roadways, but again, we're not talking inches of snow. This is maybe a dusting to a couple of tenths, and that's about it. And a few more bursts of snow out towards Grand Island, also down towards Hebron, and these are all moving off to the east, and these should be the final rounds of these little bursts of snow that come through, especially this band back out to the west. So I think probably after about 7 o'clock this evening, we should be mainly done with the snow, and you can see there's really nothing else back behind it. Now, skies will start to clear as we go through the overnight hours, and unfortunately, we just haven't had very much precipitation out of this snow or really at all this month. We've only had 0.02 of an inch of liquid so far, and over the next 7 days, computer models not suggesting much in the way of rainfall, so we are likely to end the month exactly where we are at 0.02 of an inch. And it's interesting because that is the driest February to date, or this is the driest February to date in 105 years. You got to go back to 1917 to find another time when it was only 0.02 of an inch, and this now ties for the second driest February on record. And take a look at the drought monitor that was released today. We've now expanded severe drought conditions further to the south, into southeast Nebraska. So Fairbury and Hebron included in this. We've had an 8% expansion in severe drought across the state from last week's drought monitor to this week's drought monitor. 91% of the state is included in a moderate drought right now. So again, not looking great. We don't have a whole lot of precipitation coming our way over the next week. Temperatures right now, 16 degrees in Lincoln. It's 14 in Friend. Factor in the wind and wind chills going below 0 to single digits for most of the area. By morning, we could see wind chills once again dropping back to 5, maybe as much as 13 degrees below 0. The actual air temperature should drop to 2 below in Lincoln, 2 below in Seward, and 3 below in York, down to 0 in Beatrice. The thing that's helping us tomorrow morning, look at the wind speeds. North to the northwest, 4 to 8 miles per hour, so not very much. Through the day tomorrow, we'll see lots of sunshine around the area. By noon, temperatures back into the upper teens to low 20s. As we head towards the afternoon, our temperatures will start to rise into the upper 20s to low 30s. So we've got a little bit of a warm-up coming our way for tomorrow. But you'll notice in the 7-day forecast how that keeps going up. 48 degrees on Saturday. 57 degrees on Sunday. Next week right now looks to be pretty nice. A nice little preview of the end of March for the beginning of March. 56 degrees on Tuesday, 59 Wednesday. You're probably going to notice the forecast changing around just a little bit over the coming days. There's a couple of fronts that are really close to us next week, and depending upon which side of that front we're on, that may swing our temperatures 10 to 15 degrees. But right now, temperatures next week into the 60s at times.
Wow. Looks like we did it. You know, John warned us, just, you know, let's get through it 2 or 3 days of very cold temps, and the rest is gravy.
That's right.
All right, thank you very much, John. Finally, a positive day on Wall Street. The Dow gaining 92 points. NASDAQ is up 436. We'll be right back. We are out of time for tonight, folks. Thank you all for joining us.
World News is next. Of course, I have the very latest on the Russia-Ukraine situation. We'll see you back here at 6 o'clock.
With the Channel 8 Eyewitness News mobile app, you'll be the first to know. Get alerts about breaking news and weather, all in the palm of your hand.
Seafood is back at Amigos. Everyone gets their favorites, even my picky eaters. And I don't have to cook. But the Baja fish tacos belong to Mama.